Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Sean, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be walking you step by step for my process, how I make applique designs using my Bai Embroidery Machine. And so I'm going to go over all the supplies that you'll need, then we'll jump right into it. So this tutorial was requested by one of my subscribers, and she's like, can you just like lay it out very detailed, step by step? And I said, don't worry, I got you. So girl, I got you. But this tutorial may be a little bit longer, so I just wanted to give you the heads up, but it's going to be a lot of good information that you'll need so you'll get some really nice results when you do your applique designs, and so you won't get as many headaches when you're doing applique designs. So let's go ahead and go over the supplies you'll need, and then we'll get started. So first of all, you're going to need your shirt. I'm going to be using this purple Gildan unisex shirt, sweatshirt. And the customer requested this sequence. So this is for an order that I'm doing. And I haven't even used this sequence yet. And I never thought about this color combination. And now I'm like, I got to make one for me. But we'll be using this iridescent purple-ish sequence fabric. I do already have a piece of Heat and Bond Lite cut out. You'll need your applique scissors. I do have my applique scissors as well as my duckbill scissors. You need a regular pair of scissors. I'm going to be using this no-show mesh cutaway stabilizer, which is from Richword. And I will be using my favorite Mighty Hoop, my 8x13 Mighty Hoop for this. And so now let me go back to the Heat and Bond. There are a ton of different Heat and Bonds out there. The Heat and Bond that you want, and yes, I do buy mine in bulk, is this one here, Heat and Bond Lite. Heat and Bond Lite. So there are a few different ones. Again, there's gonna, normally when you're looking for Heat and Bond, it's gonna be the Heat and Bond Ultra that you're gonna see, which has red, like a reddish label, and then it's gonna be Heat and Bond Light, which has a purple label. Look for the one with the purple label that says Heat and Bond Light, or it might even say Heat and Bond Sewable. Both of those are perfect. Those are the ones that you need. Now, if you use Heat and Bond Ultra, will it make a big difference? Not really, but the light is better just because of the adhesive that's on there. And after you finish your applique, then you'll end up pressing it, heat pressing it, and so that fabric can then adhere to your garment in addition to it being stitched on. But Heat and Bond Light or Heat and Bond Sewable, not Heat and Bond Ultra Hold. That's not the one that you need, but again, if that's what you have, you can use it. It won't hurt or damage anything. It's just better to use the other two options that I gave you, the Heat and Bond Light and the Heat and Bond Sewable. So now that we got that out the way, oh, and I also have my lint roller and my vac because I work with sequins a lot, pretty much every day, and the stuff gets everywhere. So I have both handy for when I need them for cleaning up my workspace. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go over to the heat press, and we are going to press the Heat and Bond Light onto the back side of the fabric. With the Heat and Bond Light, there's going to be a smooth paper side, and then there's going to be a rough side. It feels bumpy, and that's going to be the side where the adhesive is. So we're going to be placing the adhesive side onto the back side of the fabric. So let's go ahead, go over to the heat press, and we'll get this pressed on, and then we'll get our shirt hooped up and onto the machine so we can start stitching it out. All right, we are at the heat press now, and I'm just going to get my fabric and everything prepared. So I'm going to just lay my fabric down, and I'm going to have to press twice because it is a little bit that is hanging off the edge here. So I'm going to get my fabric on here, and then I'm going to get my Heat and Bond. Again, there's a smooth side, and then the other side it's shiny and it's rough, it's bumpy. This is the side that has the glue on there, that will adhere to your fabric. So I'm going to put the side with the glue or the adhesive on against the wrong side of the fabric. And so I cut mine down pretty much to size whatever my fabric is. All right, and usually I press this at about 250 to 300 degrees. You will only have to, I like to press mine for about 15 to 20 seconds, and then you're good. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this press, and then we'll go ahead and move over to the hooping station so we can get our shirt hooped up. But again, a good 15 to 20 seconds is good. I'm gonna stop it right here and let my press open. And then I'm gonna just swing it around, and this will be hot, so be careful, especially the sequins on here. It gets hot. And so now I'm gonna just get that other side again for 20 seconds. So I'm gonna slide you a little bit closer to the hooping station so then we can get our shirt hooped up. Now that we have our heat and bond onto the back of our fabric, this should be the front of your fabric, and then you will have that paper side on the back of there. So that's how that's looking. We're going to put this to the side because we don't need this right now. So I already have the bottom part of my hoop in my hooping station. Then I'm going to go ahead and hoop up my stabilizer. And again, this is no-show mesh cutaway stabilizer. And I did go ahead and use my t-shirt ruler, this ruler right here, so I can mark my center point as well as make sure I'm down the 4-finger standard for where I want the design to stitch. And I just mark that with a sticker. Then we'll just slide this on top. And let me just go ahead and get that straightened up and lined up. Now the shirt does have a crease in there. That's the crease when it was shipped to me. You know, it was folded, so it created that crease. So I'm just making sure I'm following where I put my center point. Normally I'll heat press it first, but I didn't do that this time. So I'm just making sure I get everything straight. And that all looks good to me, because once you stitch, it cannot be, well, it could be undone, but it's going to take a lot to undo it. So I want to make sure it's straight the first time. And once I have it on there straight, and I'm just going to look at it again just to make sure. All right. That line is really throwing me off. I should have heat pressed that. Okay, so that is on the center line. So, and it also lines up with the dots here on the hoop. So I'm good to go. So now our shirt is hooped. Just gonna go ahead and lift that up off of my hooping station. And this is how it should look. And it would be nice and secure and tight. So now let's go ahead and get this onto the machine. Now I'm going to go ahead and just slide this on here. Make sure I'm checking that my shirt is actually laid out flat. All right, so we have it on there. Now I'm going to bring you closer to the screen so I can show you a few things while we're getting our design all set up. So as you can see, I already have my design in. I have my hoop selected. I have all of that. I do have to switch my thread colors, so we'll go through that as well. So I've already selected my design. Now I'm gonna click on colors so I can select my thread color, and I'm going to do, let's see, number 7, which will be light purple. And then I'm going to do a white for the stitch. Actually, no, I'm gonna do a black for the second stitch, just so I'll be able to see my threads better. And then I'm gonna do that number 7 again. So I have 7, 9, 7. So purple, light purple, black, and light purple. The reason I'm doing black for the tack down stitch is because this way I'll be able to easily be able to see the threads that as I'm cutting out the fabric or cutting away the additional fabric. So I always like to use a contrasting color. That way I can see the stitches better. That way I don't accidentally cut through my thread or my stitches. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit save because those are the colors that I want. Now one important thing, I do a lot of appliques, so I always keep my applique button on AM, and let me just zoom in on that for you. So this right here with the 2 threads and the arrows and AM. Now when you get your machine, it's going to probably come and it's going to be on AA, which is automatic. So this just means if you have a design with multiple colors, once one color stitches out, the machine, it'll stop, it'll cut that thread, and it's going to automatically move to the next color and keep stitching. We don't want that with appliques because we want to make sure that we have the machine stop so we can do the necessary steps to complete the applique. So all you would do is just tap it once and it's going to be on AM, which is automatic manual. So that means that the machine will move to the color, the next color, but is going to stop after that particular color stitches out, and will allow you to place your fabric, to take the hoop off or take your garment off the machine, cut out the fabric and put it back on the machine, and it'll continue where it left off. So you want to make sure you switch this to automatic manual. That way it's going to stop. You're going to have your placement stitch, which will stitch out first, the machine will stop. You're going to have your tack down stitch, will stitch second, your machine will stop. You're going to cut your fabric and then put your garment back on the machine, and then you're going to hit start again, and it's going to do your final stitch out. So the applique process is a 3-step process. So you're going to have 3 different stitch outs that's going to happen, and this is going to be very important that you have it set up to manually stop in between each color. All right, so now that we have that out the way, let me zoom out here, and then we'll get our design ready. So I'm good to go. I have the design selected, got my colors, got my hoops. I'm good. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit ready. And yes, I need to go into embroidery mode. And first things first is a trace. So we're gonna hit tracing so we can make sure our design is where we want it to be. We want to double check our placement, and I always just do the normal trace. I'm going to hit that and hit OK, and then the machine will go ahead and do a trace. And that actually looks pretty good. I'm gonna just move it up just a little bit. So I'm gonna bring you back to the camera, or bring you back to the screen, not the camera. I'm gonna cancel, and I'm just going to move up just a little bit, and then I'm gonna do another trace just so I can check. And that is perfect. So now I'm ready to go ahead and start with the placement stitch. So the placement stitch is going to allow you to see where you need to lay down your fabric in your hoop. So first it'll do that initial stitch, and then the machine is going to stop. So let's go ahead and let that first stitch out happen, and then we'll go on to the next step. So we'll go ahead and hit start. It's going to move over to the color that I selected, and it's going to do that initial stitch. And this is usually pretty quick. It should only take maybe about a couple of minutes, if that. a minute or, yeah, about a minute or two. And this is only 4 letters, so it's going to be very quick. So I will be right back once this finished stitching out. And our placement stitch is done. So again, the placement stitch will be your first stitch, and now next will be the tack down stitch, and this is where we're going to peel that heat and bond off the back of the fabric, well, the carrier sheet. So just put that, and as you can see, it's going to have like that shiny side on your fabric, or it's going to make your fabric shiny. That is the adhesive. So after the stitch out, then we'll heat press this to make sure it adheres to the shirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and just place this under here in my hoop, and you do want to make sure that you peel off that backing paper. Do not stitch your design with this paper on here. You want to make sure you take that off. So now we have our fabric in there. Then I'm gonna go ahead and hit start, and now it's going to do the tack down stitch, which is going to hold the fabric in place and show you where you need to cut out the additional fabric that you don't need. And as you can see, well, I'll do a close-up once it finished stitching out. But that is why I like to use a contrasting color. If I would have used that same light purple, I probably would have had a hard time seeing the thread, which can cause you to cut into the stitches, and you don't want to do that. So always use a contrasting color, thread color for this step. It just makes it easier for you to see. So I'll be right back, and we'll go on to the next step. All right, so our tack down stitch is finished. Now you might not be able to see it, but I'm gonna try bring it close. So that is how we're looking right now. And that just, again, that contrasting thread just makes it so much easier, especially working with sequins fabric. If you're working with just like a cotton fabric or something like that, usually it's pretty simple, pretty easy to see. But because of the sequins, it makes it a pain and makes it a little bit hard to see it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting, and actually I'm gonna cut away some of this extra fabric that I don't need first. And as you can see, the sequins is popping all over the place. And I work with sequins pretty much every day. The majority of my orders are for sequin shirts. People just like the shine that they give off. But if you're starting off and this is going to be your very first applique, use cotton. Use 100% cotton. Make it easier, get comfortable with the process, and then go to, you know, those other types of fabrics that could be a bit of a pain. And so I'm just going to start cutting down and then start cutting around the letters. And I'll give you a close-up. I'm going to do the first one, and then I'm just going to finish the rest and then come back after the fact. But you just want, and I like to hold mine so I can make sure I'm getting right down to where that thread is, so there's not extra fabric. You don't want extra fabric hanging off past the letters, just because it will stick out from your final satin stitch and it won't look good. Now with working with sequins, because it is sequins, it looks okay. It doesn't, you know, I haven't had any issues or complaints if there's a piece of sequins maybe sticking up underneath the thread or underneath the stitches. But you want to make sure that you're getting close as possible. You also want to be careful, and I like to lift my fabric as I'm cutting to make sure I don't accidentally cut through my garment. So just take your time with this part. You do not want to rush. Just make sure you're getting everything cut and you're not cutting your shirt. And I'm actually start from around on this side, and I'm gonna cut around the A and then go back to my M. And then I'll show you that first letter, and then I'm gonna get the rest of this done off screen. Okay, there we go. Had a piece of sequence that did not want to cut through. And again, get as close as you can to those threads, to the stitches. All right, so now this will make it easier for me to finish cutting the M. And actually, I'm gonna use my duckbill scissors because this M is straight. The duckbill scissors I like to use for really straight letters. If they have a curve, then the curved scissors are better for that. All right, then I'm gonna cut this across the top, as well as I'm gonna cut the bottom. Okay, so now go in and finish cutting out the M. And again, this is just going to take some patience here. And I know there's a lot of people that do not like to do applique for this particular reason, because it does take a while to cut out. And let me get my other scissors because those might need to be sharpened. Yeah, these are cutting right through. I'm going to have to sharpen my other ones. That's why I was having a struggle. And again, I'm just cutting all the way down because there is that little V in the M. And then I'm going to come up the other side. And then the bottom part of the M. And as you can see, the mess that the sequence is causing. And I've only done one letter. So that's why you'll definitely want to have a vac or your lint roller or something like that handy, so you can clean up your workspace. Okay, and we are almost there. And so I'm doing this in real time. So this is how long this is going to take to cut this out. I mean, my scissors were a little bit dull, my other ones, so it took a little bit longer than it should have. Now, I do have a laser, so I do usually cut out my cotton fabric with my laser. I have not tried sequins in my laser machine. I don't know if that's something that I can do. I was researching it. I didn't see anything about it either way. So I guess I'm just gonna have to try it and just stand right there with my fire extinguisher just in case, so I don't burn nothing down. All right, so I got that first part done, and I'm gonna have to go back and kind of clean it up a little bit, but let me vacuum this up so I can lift it up without dropping sequins all over the place. And again, this is the only part of working with sequins that drives me crazy, but the end result is always beautiful. Especially this this color. This is going to be really nice on this shirt. And I'm just going to vacuum as much as I can. I'm gonna have to vacuum my floor once I finish anyways. All right. So I've cut out the M. I am gonna have to go back and kind of get the edge here on this side. I'll get a little bit here. But this is how you want to make sure that you get it right up against your stitches, as close as you can. You don't want to have too much extra fabric hanging past the thread, your thread line, or where your stitches are. Otherwise, again, even once you do that satin stitch, it can still show on the edges, and it's not a good look, especially when you're doing it on a using a cotton fabric. It doesn't look good, and it's almost impossible to clean up after the fact unless you have like some really tiny scissors. So just take your time throughout this step, get it cut down. If you need to go back and do some extra trimming, do that before you put it on the machine to do that final stitch out. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish cutting this out, and then I will be back once we're ready for the next step. All right, so I have all my fabric cut out, and I did end up grabbing my scissor sharpener, so I was able to sharpen up my applique scissors and cut through like butter. So it did not take me long at all. So this is what it's looking like after I cut away all that extra fabric. So now I'm ready to put it back on my machine so I could go ahead and do that final satin stitch. So I'm gonna bring you closer over to the machine. All right, let's get her back hooped up. So I'm just making sure I get that over my bar. And then I just like to double check underneath and behind. All right, so now we are good to go. So I'll go ahead and hit start, and it's gonna start that final satin stitch out. And another easy way to get comfortable with applique is to also try using HTV glitter. That'll be much easier than trying, you know, different types of specialty fabrics, things like that. So cotton fabric as well as heat transfer vinyl. And with heat transfer vinyl, glitter heat transfer vinyl, you won't have to worry about putting the heating bond on the back because that already has an adhesive, so you'll be good to go there. And as you can see, I'm having no issues with it stitching through this sequence, and I am using a standard 7511 needle. So this machine, I do sequence appliques just about every day, and I have not had any issues, needles breaking or anything like that. So if you are looking to upgrade your machine, or you know, go from a single needle to a multi-needle or add on, I will make sure to have my link for Bai in the description box, and you will get $100 off, because I mean, this machine is a beast. As you can see how good and how fast it's stitching out as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this stitch out, but just kind of wanted to give you a few tips as we go along as far as the different types of fabrics that you can use when you're doing applique designs. But definitely if you're just starting out, again, I recommend 100% cotton fabric or glitter HTV. I would probably recommend glitter HTV first and then go on to fabrics if you're just trying it out. But I will be back once this finishes stitching out so we can get it cleaned up and I can show you the finished result. Our shirt is finished, so let me grab that off the hoop. Oh my gosh, I am loving these two colors together. So that's how we're looking right now. And I actually have this same type of sequence, the iridescent sequence, in this color, a darker purple and a red. I should have gotten blue when I was there, but I didn't, and now I want it. But this is really, really pretty. And my vac died on me. I got it charging right now because, yeah, I got some sequins that I need to get up. So let me get this up real quick. And it's just a little bit, not a lot. And I can put this back on the charger. All right, so there's a couple pieces of sequins that is sticking out. So I just want to go ahead and cut those away. And it's only a few, not too many. That's the only thing about doing using sequence fabric for applique, is that you can see, you might have saw that piece that just went flying, is that once you finish, you may have some pieces that did come through, and you'll just have to take your scissors and clip those away. So there's a little bit of cleanup after the fact. Usually, again, only because this is a sequence. If you're using HTV glitter or cotton or something like that, you shouldn't have much cleanup to do after the fact. All right, so now I am going to turn this inside out. Take my lighter, or you can use some snips, and I'm gonna just go ahead and get those threads where they started and ended at, and that is it. And now I'm just going to cut away the stabilizer. And a good way to cut your stabilizer so you don't end up cutting through your garment is to have your shirt facing away from you, and then have your stabilizer facing towards you so you can see your shirt clearly. That way you don't have to kind of guess or end up cutting your shirt. All right, then I'm gonna just get this side here and this side. And we are good there. Now I will need to take this over to the heat press so I can press it down, and that's what that heating bond is for. So even though we have the thread around it or have it stitched down, we still want to make sure that it adheres to the shirt. So I will go over to the heat press, but I'm gonna do that off camera and then heat press the shirt. So this is how she turned out. That is really, really cute. I'm really liking this fabric, and that fabric actually is not a really sheer sequence. It did have a different backing than some of my other sequence fabric, and so I actually might make a dress out of that fabric because it's really cute. But yeah, that'll be another tutorial for another day. But I will have everything I use linked in the description box. I'll have everything from the scissors to my mighty hoops. You use my code with them, you'll get free shipping, as well as my link for Bai for the mirror machine, where you can get $100 off if you were looking to purchase a multi-needle machine. As well as I get my sweatshirts from S&S Activewear. You do have to have submit your business license or your reseller's license or sales tax permit to them for them to set you up an account, but that is where I get my sweatshirts from. Another place where you don't have to submit documentation would be All Day Shirts. You can get your sweatshirts, t-shirts, and different items from there. But I really like S&S Activewear just because their shipping is super fast. But if you do have any questions, let me know below in the description box. Again, I am going to heat press this, and I'm going to heat press this at 300 degrees for about 20 seconds, maybe 25 seconds, and that'll be it. I'll be done. If you're using cotton, I would use the same temp, about 310 degrees for 20 to 25 seconds. If you're using HTV glitter vinyl, use the settings. Usually HTV, I want to say, is about 325 or 320 for 25 or 30 seconds. I don't remember off the top of my head, but just use the standard pressing settings if you're using HTV glitter for your applique, to press it after the fact so you can make sure the fabric or that material does adhere to the garment. But thanks so much for watching today's tutorial, and to the person that did request the detailed in-depth tutorial of applique, I hope this helps. If you do have any additional questions, reach out to me or drop your questions or comments below in the comments section. Otherwise, I will see you in the next tutorial. See you later. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Bye, y'all.